I'm Mike Horton. I'm the project creator of the Geodnet network. Geodnet provides high accuracy geospatial services. So you can think of your phone, you get GPS. That's typically accurate to 10, 20 feet, 2-3 meters. With the Geodnet service, you'll get that into the size of a golf ball, about 1 centimeter accuracy. So it's a way to provide very high accuracy geospatial data.
Sweet. Yuffy.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuffy. I'm actually a customer of Mike. Yeah. Actually, we are using Mike service to provide a really good, positioning accuracy to help our robot to run a really good path. So actually, we are doing robotic lawn mower to help Western countries people to keep their yard and the lawn very, very clean and very, very nice. Yeah, that's our purpose. Yeah. And previously, I was working a really big company called Cofounder. If you are in Western countries, I think you might know that company. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Benson.
Hi, my name is Benson. Not who. Yeah, that's a typo there. My background is in international finance, and I specialize in data-driven growth strategy. And I'm also the co-founder and the CEO of Nubila, ESG data oracle designed to revolutionize the data collection and utilization. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Chris.
Hey guys, my name is Chris Denaro. I'm chief of staff for Glow. Glow is a crypto protocol that rewards solar farms for producing carbon credits. If you saw Dylan Bain's presentation earlier, Glow's #2 on DePIN Ninja for monthly revenue. We're up to 52 solar farms on the Glow protocol. We just commissioned the largest solar farm to date, a 1.3 megawatt system in India. Excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome, thank you. Sweet, so yeah, let's just keep this like open conversation really. There are a few points that I wanted to touch upon. As usual, I would like to first sort of like look at the state right now and how you guys are tackling, demand side. And then maybe we do another round of like, speaking where we maybe tackle like future things that you guys are working on and how you plan to basically have them work out. Why we did this panel, Chris, you kind of like anticipated it earlier when Dylan was talking about demand for DePIN, and we actually chatted about it earlier, right? So DePINs in general sort of like figured out the supply side pretty well, the whole incentivization to, contribute to various networks. The demand side is a little bit, like Dylan was saying, or like, Mahesh was saying, like, I gotta experiment a little bit to find like the right fit for the data that all these, or the services that these DePIN networks are providing. So the whole point of having this panel is, you guys, Geodnet, you provide like, an interesting and very specific service, customer right to your left. You guys also from Nubila provide something interesting. You guys just commissioned something and you are actually generating revenue. So it's a strong point to prove that, yes, people are sort of to play out with the demand side and DePIN, but it's definitely possible and it definitely helps the scaling. So let's go and maybe keep the same order and let's talk about that for a second. How, for example, you guys figured out the demand for your service, how you go about, finding new customers, and why the need for your service specifically.
So in our case, there's an existing kind of service that's out there that's been around called RTK, which is what people typically use to get this high accuracy. But that service has been very expensive and it hasn't been something globally available. It's been only available in sort of selected areas and developed regions. So our project is really building has now built the world's largest RTK network and is providing accessibility to that service at lower costs and better availability. One of the cool things about it is the standards are existing, so it's easy for us to plug into a lot of existing systems and equipment, and that helps a lot with adoption. We're not having to evangelize sort of what our product is. There's kind of a ready-made market for it, so we can focus on just having the better coverage and having the more stations than the other networks. And we've been able to do that successfully, and that's let us grow revenue quickly.
How does my counter question, how does the DePIN model, would Geodnet work and kind of like be able to provide the same service at the same cost if maybe you weren't using like a DePIN model?
Well, the problem would be that you'd have to have a central formula for setting up stations. And so Geodnet, myself and one of the other co-founders looked at doing that initially and even went so far as to put a few stations up before we realized that working in a centralized way would be incredibly expensive. Even the hardware were free to set up the station, which is not, but even if it were free, it would still be extremely expensive and time consuming to set up a global RTK network in a centralized way. And furthermore, then you have the problem of payments and the maintenance of the network. So if you try to pay people without blockchain technology, it gets very complicated. I mean, trying to send wires every day to 9,000 people all over the planet is something that's far from practical. And then, just keeping up with like how do you maintain the different locations. We're able to use decentralized technology for a location NFT, which structures the network the way that we want so that we don't have too much coverage in one area and not enough coverage in another area. Then we can use staking in order to let people sort of select areas where the rewards should be higher to encourage coverage and maybe some places that are harder. So I think all in all, it's basically kind of self-proven to be an impossible problem to solve without Web3. People have been trying to build the RTK networks for 20 years and never have been able to really scale one to a globally available high-density network. Using crypto incentives, we've been able to grow to be the biggest network in the world in less than 2 years and under $7 million raised. So I think it's an incredibly capital-efficient way to build a network.
I mean, that's a pretty fair point for DePIN, I would say. Sweet. Yuffy, what about you in terms of like, being a customer of a DePIN project? Had you guys looked at trying to like figure out the same service maybe from like a centralized company, let's say, if that existed, or how did this come about, like leveraging Geodnet precise location?
Okay, there's a long story. Actually, before we found mic service, Geodnet service, actually our robot works like this. We need to have a kind of a base station, and we need to have a communication between the robot and the RTK base station. Then we have a really high accuracy. And in this way, I think it's really, really expensive, and it's really hard for customer to set up the station at the beginning. So that will cost really, really a lot of for us to sell our product. So then we switch to Geodnet because they have a really good decentralized system that will help all the customer to set up the system very, very quickly. I think that is the big advantage we have right now by using their system. The other thing is that before that, we actually have a base station. We need to pay extra cost for this kind of physical device. And now we switch to the system, to the service. What we need to do is only subscribe for the service every year. And that will largely, cost down our product. Those are the two, benefits we gain from using Geodnet service. Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it. Benson, what about you guys? How have you guys, how are you tackling the whole demand side for basically the data that your network is providing or the service that your network is
Sure, it's a good question. Actually, Nubila, we're building the ESG data oracle. We focus on the environmental. The first application should be the weather. The current weather collection and the collection model is outdated and limited. So the valuable weather data is not being captured and utilized. So to address this, we acquired Bloom Sky, one of the world's largest weather station and data providers. And we then deployed the smallest and the smartest weather stations, and leveraging DePIN to gender, the hair quality, and more accurate and community-owned weather data. So currently, we're supplying the hyperlocal weather data to the world's second largest specular company, and helping them generate additional over $500,000 in revenue per year from this partnership. And we also received significant interest from multiple energy companies, including PG&E. The second is we built weather like data oracle. It works for all IoT sensors actually. So we just deployed over 10,000 validation nodes in this quarter, and worked with IoTeX to provide the fastest and most accurate on-chain ESG data to the smart contract and business intelligence. There's one number, one amazing number you may not know. Over 75,000 weather futures and contracts traded on CME.
Say that one more time.
Over 75,000 of weather futures and contracts traded on CME. It's a huge number. And the trading volume is like tens of billions. So as we all know, we cannot trade that high value just using the data provided by one single entity. That's why we have talked with several like hedge funds from Wall Street. They are highly interested in what Nubila is doing. And they are willing to pay at least 10% to buy the qualified weather data. So now you know how important the qualified, validated weather data is, right? Yeah, so not only weather data, Nubila can also supply and validate like air quality data, carbon data, and all kinds of ESG data. Thank you.
Yeah, super interesting. I have some follow-up, but I think that will fit more into like the second part, like how would this apply, for example, combined with other types of DePIN that provide maybe different type of service, like maybe location but we'll get to that in just a second.
Sure.
I want to go to Chris, because Chris, when we chatted earlier, right, you were saying you guys basically focused on supply at the beginning. So I'm guessing that's the case in which you need to reach like some sort of like critical mass for demand to start kicking in. And it can be, I think, difficult because maybe not everybody can get to that level where they reach critical mass and then, demand starts being driven, So let's maybe talk about that for a second.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think carbon credit markets are interesting because the demand is already there, right? And so I can kind of talk about, okay, what is the current state of the carbon credit markets? Why do companies care about buying carbon credits? And then why supply side has been the focus for us. But yeah, I don't know, show of hands, how many people are familiar with carbon credit markets and the problems there? A couple. Okay.
What are some of the problems, for example?
Well, so really it's the problems are with the quality and transparency of how carbon credits are created. Like there's a couple standardization agencies, but there's hundreds of different ways to generate carbon credits. And so developing a consistent auditing standard across those is really difficult. And so that's like a major problem. And you see carbon credits can go from anywhere from less than $1 to over $1,000. And a lot of that has to do with the story that is tied to the carbon credits. And so, for example, Microsoft has a carbon credit buying program, and mostly that is driven by, they found that they can increase employee retention, right? People feel better about working for big bad Microsoft if they know that millions of dollars are going towards saving the world, right? And so that story that's tied to the carbon credit is really important. And with Glow, that's kind of what blockchain allows us, right, is that transparency. We can have all of that data on chain. Glow works by installing a monitoring box on these solar systems. We know how dirty the grid is, and we know how much power they're generating. So it's a simple calculation of how much carbon we offset, and all of that is transparent and visible. And so we have a lot of justification for the quality and the impact of the carbon credits that we're generating. But beyond that, really supply side was the difficult thing for us, because if you think about us compared to other DePIN projects, projects like Helium or Decharge, to purchase one of those devices versus setting up a solar farm is like orders of magnitude different, right? So really for us, it was that focus on building the supply side, building the solar and the number of carbon credits that Glow is generating, and being able to generate enough carbon credits that we can go to those big buyers like Microsoft and Google. And we do have corporate sponsors, so like Filecoin is a big sponsor of Glow. They're donating to retire carbon credits. But for us, the more corporate sponsors we have, the more imbalanced the ecosystem is, right? Because we have really outsized rewards for those early solar farms on Glow. So we really just focused on building that supply, and once we have enough carbon credits, we'll focus on building the demand side. That being said, if you're interested in being a sponsor of Glow, come talk to me after.
All right. Sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so second round, let's shift gear and let's look a little bit about the next couple of years, the next few years. Mike, how do you see, what's exciting, about Geodnet, what's coming up, and how are you planning on expanding?
Yeah, so I think one of the most exciting applications is applications like Yuffie's and robotics and in drones. We all today, we have, 3, 4 iPhone-type devices per person, right? Everybody's got at least a phone, so a lot of people have the watch, a pad. I think the next big wave of devices that people are going to be robots, and they're going to have them in their home, they're going to have them, outside their home, they're going to have them above them with drones, helping keep them safe. So I see a real robot revolution coming, and for those robots to have the spatial context that they need to do the AI that they want to do, they need to know, they need to have a very good precision and location. And so Geodnet really is a fundamental piece of infrastructure for robotics, drones, and the AI services built on top of those. And that's, I think, what gets us the most excited. There are a lot of traditional applications that we serve to in agriculture and civil survey and construction, and also even applications on the mobile phone for gaming. We're announcing a gaming partnership. And I think those are really, both really cool ends of the spectrum as well. But if there's one particular thing that I think is going to be quite revolutionary that would not happen without Geodnet is a mass adoption of robotics.
Sweet. Yeah, I like that. Talking about mass adoption of robotics, I mean, Yuffie, you guys already have your own, more robot, but what's next? Are you maybe are you going to tackle like different verticals now, or?
Yeah, actually our ambition is to become the landlord DJI. Dajiang, Chinese brand. They are actually developing drones, but we are all going to develop really robust, monster on the land. Yeah, that's our ambition. Yeah, actually, I can say something more about next few years, because robot will become a really, really popular product for each family. Because suppose this summer is very hot, at least in my country it's very hot. I think the place where people never go is the outside when the climate is changing very often, right? So that's why I estimated that the outdoor robot will become a really, really popular and a really booming product in the future. Yeah. So now we have a really small robot like the lawnmower, which is like that size. But in the future, we will have small size, middle size, and big size. The big size will be the one people use for large lawn, or maybe they will have a really big farm, and we will have a robot which can do everything for the farmers. Yeah. And for the small one, now we have it for the lawn, and maybe we can also have a small one which can swim in the pool. Now we have already seen some products similar in the market, but we will do a real fancy one which can swim like a man, or maybe like a frog, or maybe a more fancy frog can swim a certain path. Yeah. But if we want to have the products like that, we definitely need a Geodnet service. Yeah, because that's a kind of like a fundamental technology for our product. Yeah. Okay.
Sweet, thank you. And yeah, Benson, we're back. Let's do that. Let's talk about cross DePIN data and how you think like that could impact the demand for DePIN data.
Yes, when you talk about that, I think the sustainability is super important. As we have mentioned in the past several times in other places, the ESG data right now is like Bitcoin in 2013, with this like super potential for the next the 12 years, especially for the decentralized ESG data. It's one word called trustworthy. For Nubila, our way to work with that is like we are working with one of our investors, BCG, the Boston Consulting Group, one of the largest consulting company. They are helping us to talking with several demand side. So, it's not easy to work for DePIN company to work with traditional, the mainstream companies, but BCG will the bridge helping us to connect with the. So we supply weather data and other like data with actionable insights to provide for the weather sensitive industries to their clients. And actually, we just need to provide the data, and we provide some on-trend ESG data. So BCG will do the rest. And not only weather data, we also they are helping us to do the research that what we need next for the next 12 years, couple of years. It's not easy for us to bring more data, more device to the world to collect data. I also talked with some professors and doctors. What the challenge they are facing now is to collect real world data. And Nubila has the ability to make the device and to the validator network we have. So we're easily to deploy more kind of devices to collect real world data. That's what our plan is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Chris, what about you? What's in store for Glow for the next, few years, or how do you see this going?
Yeah.
I mean, you can also we can keep it on the inspiring mode, it's doesn't have to be too realistic.
Of course. Yeah, well, so you asked, but what does the future look like? I think there's a lot of questions of what do the carbon credit markets look like in the future, and how does that shake out? I think, regardless of what you think about the carbon credit markets, this increased focus on sustainability is important, right? We need to reduce carbon emissions if we want a world for future generations to exist in. And I think with Glow, we're proud of our focus on the dirtiest grid areas and the lowest energy cost areas, because we're funding and helping make solar farms happen that otherwise wouldn't be profitable and are having the biggest impact on reducing carbon emissions. So we feel really good on that. We're, I think, expanding into larger commercial scale solar now, and really still focused on building that supply side, but excited for a future where we're setting a new standard for generating carbon credits, specifically with solar, and working with some large commercial buyers, hopefully eventually the UN.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Sweet. Cool. Guys, I think that's pretty much it, unless maybe you had something else that you wanted to add, or if maybe anybody has any questions. We're a couple of minutes early, but we could wrap it up unless you want to add something.
I mean, I'll just add that I think that the future of DePIN is bright, and this focus on real world assets and having impact that you can see and feel and touch is I think what crypto needs right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel in general we're all sort of proving a point by being here on stage. What Mike said earlier, what you guys said too, maybe some of these use cases or some of these services wouldn't be possible in a traditional Web 2 scenario for various reasons, maybe cost, maybe scalability. So DePIN as a scaling technology, as a technology to scale infrastructure for all that implies, I think it's super bullish. So thanks for proving a point, if there was ever any doubt in the audience. But all right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, guys.